everybody, how's it going? It's Jessie from Jessie Marie Does Stuff here on FlossTube, and I am coming to you on this Wednesday, February 13th, 2019, with my next update. So another Wednesday in a row. Let's just keep this train rolling. I'm liking the consistency, and based on you all's comments from last week, I think that you guys are good with more consistent rather than longer. And so I'm just going to continue on this until it gets to be like I'm here for 5 minutes. This is a shorter video. I don't know that at this point, but you guys do. You see the timestamp and you know that this is not a very long video. I know that I don't have as much to show you as I normally do. And so that's sort of why things are a little bit more brief today. What do we have to talk about today? I have a couple of whips, literally just a couple. I also have some haul and retail therapy gifts, kind of a hodgepodge of things. Like a really brief statement on books, and then I'm going to talk knitting today. I just have a little bit to talk about. I told you guys previously that I kind of have room in my life for two things. It's usually stitching and then either books or knitting. Well, the books have kind of slipped a little off, and the knitting is making a comeback. I'm trying to find a way to schedule in time for all of them, but we'll see how that goes. So yeah, knitting today, pretty cool. Even if it's not a longer video, at least there's some variety. So anyway, so let's just go ahead and jump right in. I don't have any Q&A, so if you guys have any questions, by all means, leave them in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer them next time. Okay, let's get on with the projects. Okay, in works in progress, I have worked on In This Moment since we last spoke. However, I only put in 300 stitches on it, and I've taken it off the Q-snap. I don't think that that's quite enough for me to warrant showing it today, and so I will show that next time when I make some decent headway. It just wasn't worth it to bring it all out and deal with all that. I took it off the Q-snap. I was trying to work on it every other day, but this weekend kind of tossed all of my plans and ideas out the window, which is fine. It's all good. And so I just decided to take it off the Q-snap, and I will try to make time for In This Moment a little bit later in the month so that I can get my goals accomplished on that. So that's that. It's just going to wait a little bit. And so I will show that not this time. So then, Wednesday was the start of my Stargazer rotation. And Stargazer is by Mirabilia. We all know this, for the most part. And this is what she will look like, kind of. I'm doing a total color conversion to a Virginia Tech inspired conversion as a remembrance piece. And I made some really good progress this rotation. It was a little disjointed, but I made some good progress nonetheless. So I think before I was up in here, thereabouts, as far as the orange is concerned, and then over here was up a little bit higher. And I just zoomed right on down. This is such easy stitching. It's mostly just color blocks. I have to pay a little attention to where the beads are going to go. You can see all those empty spaces. There's a ton of beads. A ton of beads. I don't know how she's standing up. Between the volume of skirts that she's wearing and it's beaded, I don't know how she's standing. But that's all right. So, made it quite a ways down. These stitches over here, these maroonish colored stitches over here, that's the end of that color. Well, for the most part. I mean, there's some little bits in here, but like, I'm reaching the end of her jacket, which is, it's crazy to me. I started this project on April 16th, 2017, and I got going on the jacket way back then, so just reaching the end of that milestone, it feels pretty significant. And I like it. I really, really, really like the way that her ribbons are looking coming across the front of her skirts. It gives it kind of a Halloween feel with the orange and the dark grays, but I'm not mad. I like it. I like the effect of it. And I like the ribbons up here enough to leave them. I did change the ribbons a little bit. So I used some more color blocking than was advertised in the chart because of my limited palette for the ribbons. So it gets a little bit more, it looks a little bit better down here, a little less muddy, and I like it. So I've reached an okay feeling about the ribbons, and in almost the same breath, I found another problem with my conversion. Problem is probably too harsh a word, but just a part that's giving me pause, that I'm not sure if this is really working out how I wanted it to. So this is the start of the ruffles of her skirts, sort of the bustled up bits. So let me point that out. In the original version, they're done in blues and the back of the fabric is in grays. So this part to me is representative of Hokey-Stone. Hokey-Stone is a huge aspect of Virginia Tech life. Every single one of our buildings, since forever, it seems like. There are some of the older buildings that aren't done this way, but since forever, all of the buildings, everything, residential, food halls, educational, research, parking garages, everything is covered in Hokey-Stone. And so Hokey-Stone is just a huge part of Virginia Tech living. This is a remembrance piece for the April 16th tragedy. And the memorial on campus, each of the victims has their own huge block of Hokey-Stone with their name etched into it. It's beautiful. It's in one of the prettier spots on campus. It's a fabulous memorial for a horrible event. And I really like what they did with that. Hokey-Stone is a huge part of Virginia Tech living, and it's become a huge part of this piece. And so I have, the color conversion that I did is that those ruffled bits are representative of that. So they are in mostly the 640s ranges. And then the darkest shade is in 844. It's like a charcoal, but that's used very sparingly. And then the back of the fabric is done in the same as my original conversion for the ribbons. So going from black to almost white at the lightest spots. So that's what's going on here. Now, do you see these light sections, these really super light sections? That's a big one right there. There's a little one right there. I'm up in here. So just above my nail there is where you see this white spot. Because when I was looking at the chart and looking at the colors, there's a big jump in shading there. It goes from a blue to an almost blue-white. And so when I did my color conversion, I did sort of the same very strong contrast. But I think it's too strong. I think that it's just a little bit, so you lose the movement of fabric with it being that strong. The other colors are working out great. I am loving what's going on over here. But the 3866 there, that cream color that you think might be dirty, I think it's a little bit too bright. So what I'm going to do is the next time that I work on her in March, I'm going to work my way across. And if I hate it, then I'm going to put the same stipulation as I did on the ribbons. If I hate it, then I'm going to start over. I do think that I have to get a little bit further down before I can make that judgment. It's a little too early to tell. So in early March, I will have an idea of what's going to happen there. I'm pretty sure that I'll be able to find a color that will work there maybe a little bit better. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. The thing about Hokia stone is that it is the full range of colors. I mean, it's limestone. So you get the greener shades and you get the browner shades and you get the pale shades. And a lot of the Hokia stone is kind of in this lighter color. So it's okay. It's still representative. I just want to make sure that it makes the fabric look like fabric rather than this strange block of color. So I will have to play with that later. Fabric here, by the way, is 32 count Belfast in Florin by Chromatic Alchemy. And the fabric color is also it's very much a Hokia stone color, which is what I was after. So my rotation with Stargazer was supposed to go through Sunday. However, Friday afternoon, Danny calls me on his way home from work and he's like, hey, my boss just asked me if we could run an errand up to New Jersey to go pick up this tool. And would you be interested in going along? And I was like, well, yeah, I'm interested in going. We'll kind of make a day out of it. It was really a day trip. It was like a 24-hour trip. And, you know, we'll sort of have a pseudo Valentine's Day. He was like, all right, that's cool. And so that's what we did on Sunday, which tossed my rotation completely out of whack because I was supposed to work on In This Moment Sunday morning, and I was supposed to work on Stargazer on Sunday during the day. And so I couldn't. I took some stitching with me, but I wasn't going to take like my whole big frame. We were going to be there for like 4 hours. So it wasn't worthwhile to me to take everything. I took a mill hook kit that I never stitched on. So we got back Monday evening, and I had decided that when we got back Monday evening, if I was going to get to stitch, I was going to get right into my rotation with Jingles because that was supposed to start on Monday. Stargazer only got 4 days, but I was comfortable with the progress that I had made. I hadn't quite reached my goal as far as where I was in the pattern yet, but I had done a lot of stitching in those 4 days nonetheless. So I was good with putting that away and getting right into my next rotation. Well, magical stitches. So we got our homework first thing Monday morning or late Sunday night. I have no idea. And this week's homework is with relation to the sort of consequences of Polyjuice Potion. And so there are 3 tasks, and you have to do 2 of them, but you can get some extra credit if you do the 3rd. And there's forfeit options if you don't have a project that fits. I do. So the first task was stitch on something modified because Polyjuice changes you. So I put Stargazer back on the frame and stitched on her Monday evening. Even Danny was like, well, I guess we know what you're going to work on for that one. Yeah, I guess so. So I got a little bit further down the line with Stargazer. So then the next 2 tasks. One is stitch on something with a cat. And you don't have to stitch on the cat. But the project has to have a cat in it nonetheless. Because when Hermione takes her Polyjuice Potion, mistakes happened and she turned into a cat. And then the third task was stitch on something with a ghost in it. And the reason for that is that they sort of brewed their Polyjuice Potion in the girls' bathroom that nobody uses because Moaning Myrtle lives there. Moaning Myrtle is a ghost. Okay, so those are the tasks. The project that I chose to do for those, I was able to pick just one project. I could have pulled out my Clouds Factory Haunted House, but let's be honest, I was feeling this because I had already worked on it this month. Carriage House Samplings, Halloween at Huck Run Hollow. Love. Absolutely love this. I'm a little peeved at the fact, that's ironic, I'm a little peeved at the fact that the symbols change block to block. That's kind of annoying, but not a big deal. It's just complicated by the fact that my threads are a total disaster right now, but whatever, not a big deal. I just had to unkit block 1 and rekit up block 2, so that's okay. And I was just so looking forward to getting back to this, and I had an opportunity to. So you can see we've got a cat here in this block, and then there are ghosts in this block that I haven't yet stitched, and then ghosts in this block that I have stitched. And the fabric that they used, the ghosts kind of blend in, which is kind of thematically appropriate, but they stand out a little bit more on mine. So anyway, so I chose this for that. Magical stitches and Halloween stitching, like, yes, goes very well together. So pulled this out, did my 400 stitches for homework. Then I applied it to District 3 Week 1 with the Semi-Sane Stitchers Stitcher Games. Whew, that's a mouthful. And then while I was doing that, I was like, well, I might as well keep going and see if I can get some of my Ultimate Stitching Challenge tasks done, because I have this project pegged for 2 of those. So I thought, get a jump on that. That's okay. And so the ultimate decision that I made was that I worked on this yesterday, and I'm working on it today because #Dark13 stitching. So let me go ahead and pull it up so that you guys can see the progress I've made. It's a lot, not gonna lie. Fabric here is 40 count Newcastle linen in Country Mocha by Zweigart. It's printed fabric. And yeah, I've done quite a bit. So block 2 I hadn't started yet, and I'm so motivated by these trees. This has got to be one of my favorite blocks. Like, if I ranked them, this would be towards the top for sure. I love these 2-face trees. They're so cool. And they've got faces and the buzzards and a cemetery and cool tombstones. I really like this block. And so, yeah, digging it. And I've stitched a lot in the last couple of days because I'm motivated. And it's stitching up so nice. You know, this block took me a long time. And I think the reason it took me a long time is that I wasn't quite accustomed to 40 count. And right now, 40 count is my jam. Like, I am all about some 40 count. I put on my sexy stitching glasses and turn up the magnification, and I'm good to go. I'm really, really digging this. It's a lot of fun to work on. And I'm so excited to get to do some Dark 13 stitching today. So, very cool. I think I have another 400 stitches to go to finish up. Is it 400? Might be only 3. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. To finish up my Ultimate Stitching Challenge task, and so I will get that done. And I'm excited. I don't have any like real solid goals. I would like to get down into this corner maybe, to start working on the cemetery hill that's back here, but we'll see. I would also really like to get over to this other tree, because that's using some colors that weren't in block 1, so I think that would be fun, but we'll see how it goes. Love this. And well on my way to my year-end goal without this even being pulled up yet for WhipGo. I just got done telling you that my jingles rotation was supposed to start on Monday. Here we are on Wednesday, and I have no intentions of pulling it out today. I am going to pull it out tomorrow. I have toyed with the idea of adjusting my rotations. So each of my WhipGo focuses this month get 4 days apiece. But what I have ultimately decided is that I'm going to work on jingles tomorrow and Friday, do whatever I can. And then Saturday starts my next rotation. So I didn't bring jingles with me because I haven't worked on it yet. You guys just saw this last week, so I don't need to show it again. But so my original goal was to finish 2 blocks as well as the extras around it, and then start on a third. I'm just going to see how far I get. My goal for the project for the year is to finish it. It's a 2015 whip. I would really like to get it done. It's so little, like really and truly, it's so little that it shouldn't be taking me this long. So it's okay if I only give it 2 days now, and then I'll make time for it somewhere down the line. If I finish Fantasy Sal, that will sub in for my least favorite project. Anyway, because of the fabric. So Saturday starts my rotation with Paladin by Firewing Designs. And this is really the reason why I decided to just stick with my rotation deadline, because I would like to finish this piece. I really need to. I need some finished credits, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. I need some credits, so finishing this would really help my cause, so to speak. So this is Paladin, and this is where I'll be starting from on Saturday. This is on a crazy, crazy fabric, so just be warned. It's 32 count Belfast in Khaleesi by Under the Sea Fabrics. And I am doing Daenerys Targaryen's dragons, 3 dragons. I'd really like to have Viserion done before April. And that's what this one will be. So I still have quite a ways to go. There's still a fair big chunk of stitching, but it's monochrome and it's DMC, so I think I could get it done. I'm also back stitching. I'm basically outlining the whole thing in PB26. Really hope I have some. Might have to place an order. Should have thought about that this weekend. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see what happens. So I'm outlining the whole thing with PB26, so there's a fair bit to get done here, but I'm hoping that I can get it done before the end of the month, because I need some credits. So I will work on this Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday and Tuesday for sure, Wednesday if I need it, Thursday if I need it. So we'll just see what happens, see how it shakes out. But really looking forward to another Year of Whips finish, a Stitch 9 challenge finish, I'm excited to get to that. So that is it for plans. So let's talk real quickly about some stash acquisitions. The first thing that I have to show you here are my coloring cotton threads. They made it. So I spoke last week about the fact that it seemed like my coloring cottons had gone on a bit of a walkabout, but I wasn't the only one. So I hope that those of you who were also sort of waiting for them to pop up in the mail, I hope that happens for you soon if it hasn't already, because it did for me. I was going to wait until Saturday before I contacted Angela to figure out what to do from here, and they arrived on Friday. I'm not going to go through each of these individually. This is the limited edition, so this is like the classic Floss subscription colors. A lot of people have shown these a long time ago, and so no sense in me repeating. So that is the limited edition. I also get Angela's Primitives pack, and so real quickly here, this is them. So we have Ghost, which is what you might expect. Brass, which is pinky. It's got a pinkier tone to it. It's very pretty. Americano. Super variegated, isn't that great? It's darker than it's showing. And Red Rock, purples and reds. And probably my favorite of this month's shipment is Primitive Vines. Love this. Love that color. So those are my coloring cottons. They will have to go into the hoard. Okay. Up next. So yesterday I was on Facebook and just, doing the Facebook scroll. If it wasn't for Magical Stitches, like I would legit consider deleting my Facebook. But anyway, I happened to see that Lisa, she is the Modern Stitcher on Instagram. She posted about the fact that Stitchrovia made the announcement that they are removing the Quotes to Live By charts from her Etsy page. Like it's limited edition, and I didn't know that it was going to be like a short-term thing. But yes, it's a short-term thing. And so she's taking the charts down and basically sending the final donation amount to Mind UK, which is the charity that sow was benefiting. Since I didn't purchase all of the parts, I had to do that real quick. So that's why I need to finish Paladin. I really need some credits because that was $16. I had to get them. There was no holding off on that until I needed them. It's like buy them now or they're gone. So I did order that, and so you'll be seeing a preview here of what Quotes to Live By looks like finished. A lot of people have finished it already. I believe it was a style that started in 2017. Yeah, 2 years. And I am barely into it, but that's for another time. So there's that. So then on Thursday, I got my first Valentine's Day gift. Danny kind of decided what he wanted for Valentine's Day, and he was like, basically, can I get this? And I was like, yeah, sure, go for it. If I don't have to go through and figure out what he wants from his 8,000-page board game wish list, that's almost a gift to me in and of itself. So he ordered an expansion for one of his favorite board games, and that was his Valentine's Day gift. So Thursday, he comes home from work and he's like, hey, can I use your laptop for a second? And I'm like, yeah, sure. So he pulls up something and he says, buy this for yourself, would you? And I'm like, well, I will eventually. And he's like, no, for your Valentine's Day gift. I'm like, oh, okay, sure. And it was a Heaven and Earth Designs chart. So a few days prior, Michelle Sayeda of Haid had sort of announced this new artist that they just recently acquired a license with, and showed off a few of her upcoming releases. And one of them struck me so hard that I even sent it to Danny. I was like, oh my goodness, this is complicating my no starts. He was like, well, that's really cool. Why don't you just get it? And I was like, no, I'm not starting any Haids for a while. It's fine. It'll be available, and maybe I'll get it in a sale or something, but I'm good. So Thursday he told me, he was like, no, buy this now. So he got me some flowers for Valentine's Day that won't die in 7 days. It's great. It's super bad. So that was really sweet. I can't start it till at least next year, and I would really like to finish a Haid before I start another one. I know that I've got my pages rule, but I still would really like to finish a Haid before I start another big one. It's 40 pages, so it's another humongous one. And at some point you'll have seen what it's going to look like finished. It will be up on my wall all the time, so I don't know. I love it, and it will be worth it when I get to it. But that wasn't, as it turns out, the end of my Valentine's Day gift. So I knew that our trip to Jersey was going to be a super quick turnaround, and so I didn't even really want to breach the subject of going to Needleworkers, even though I mapped out and found out that Needleworker was just 20 minutes away from where we were staying. I just didn't want to breach the subject because I knew it was such a quick trip. There just wasn't going to be time. Monday morning, we get up. We have a couple hours before we have to meet up with this guy to do the tool exchange or whatever. So we're sitting at breakfast, and Danny hands me his phone, and he says, will you map to that stitching shop that's up here? I'm like, what? He's like, just look it up and pull up the directions, and let's go over there. And I might have screamed. I might have lost my mind a little bit because it was a complete surprise. Like I had no idea that he was planning this, and I was like super excited. So we went over to Needleworkers, and it was so good. It's such a great shop. So much for the eye to see, so much Monopoly money spending. Like, it's just a great shop. We had a really limited amount of time to be there, so I had to do this quickly. So we walk in, and if you've been to Needleworkers, then you know this, but if you haven't, when you walk in the door, directly to your left is a wall of fabric. Zweigarts and silk weavers. A wall of it. And then on the opposite wall is a wall of threads. So we start in the fabrics, and I mean, because we're needleworkers, so fabric, right? So I'm perusing, and then Danny hands me this piece of fabric, and he's like, is this what you were looking for that project? And I'm like, it's a little bit greener, but it's pretty darn perfect for what I had in mind. So I, of course, came home with it. This is 32 count Belfast in Carol's Meadow by Silkweaver. It's showing up a little bit more gray. It's a kind of a bluey green, a little bit. And there are some pinky reddy tones, very softly modeled. It's nothing harsh. It's beautiful, and it's going to be perfect for Merry and Bright. I'll insert a preview of what that's going to look like, or what the chart looks like, because mine is buried, and so I wasn't able to pull it out. But this is perfect. This is really perfect. So very excited about that. So then task number 2 was, while we're on our way, I'm like, okay, we have a limited amount of time. I better do some pre-shopping before we get in there so that I know what I'm going for. And so I thought, oh, well, this is perfect. Let me pick up a Works by ABC pattern, because of course. And the one that I was after was The Death of Susanna Jane, which several people are already working on. It's a beautiful tombstone reproduction. I love it from concept to finished piece. I love everything about it. I was so excited. And I was really glad that I hadn't ordered it online, because I was going to go in there and pick up one from Needleworkers. And then while I was there, hey, I've got chart in hand. Let's pick threads and fabric. Why not? So that was my plan going in. However, they didn't seem to have any of Arlene's newest releases. But I had to get a Works by ABC chart anyway. And the whole time I'm there, I'm reminiscing back to last May and being there with the New Jersey FlossTube retreat. Just so many good memories in that room, building, whatever. So I picked up this. This is The Praise of the Needle, and I won't read the whole thing, but it's a beautiful design. And I know that Ingeborg has worked on this. I don't know if she's finished it or not, though. But anyway, I wanted it to stitch it. Ingeborg was at the retreat, and then it's an Arlene pattern, and it's stitching related, so it's just kind of sentimental, I guess. So I picked up The Praise of the Needle. Very exciting. And I should have gone over and picked threads for it, but I just wasn't in the right headspace for that. I'll do that maybe when we're there in August, because I'm going back in August. So excited. So then, because I wasn't going to choose threads, and therefore I wasn't going to choose fabric because I didn't want to mess with any of that, I thought, well, let me go grab another chart. One of the trunk shows that they've got right now is Heartstring Samplery. And so I just stood there and looked at all of Beth Twist's beautiful things and ended up landing on This is the Coffee Bean Sampler by Heartstring Sampler, of course. This is the Magical Elixir Series Part 4, and it's the center of this design that got me. My birthstone is the coffee bean. Love it. Absolutely love it. So I thought about maybe sneaking over and trying to grab a piece of 46 count linen. Because this would be a really great project for that, I think. It'd be super tiny, but it'd be super adorable. So I contemplated going over there and looking at that. I didn't find any shades that I really was after, but Danny's reaction to 46 count linen, he was like, do people actually stitch on that? Like, is that a thing? Do people really do that? And I'm like, yeah. And then I pointed out to him the 55 count that Needleworkers has. And he was like, this is just getting absurd. So I thought that was funny. So I could have spent hours upon hours upon hours in there. But I didn't. I only had a few minutes, and so this was it. But nonetheless, it was a lot of fun to be back at Needleworkers and very exciting. Unfortunately, all of my Valentine's Day gifts are things that I can't use this year. Maybe I'll make room for some of them in October. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. So that is it for the haul. Okay, books real brief here. I am still in the midst of reading Both Lies We Tell Ourselves by Robin Talley. I talked about that and cried about it last week. I had to take a bit of a break from it just to regain some mental equilibrium, I guess. But I am back to reading that, and I hope to have that finished before next week. I also started the audio of Furies of Calderon by Jim Butcher, and I'm in the midst of that. It's a big book, so it's going to take me a little while to get through that audiobook. I think the audio is like 26 hours or something like that, without fast forward. So, but I haven't finished anything, so nothing really new to report as far as books are concerned this week. So with that, let's pop over to knitting. Guys, I've done some knitting lately. So I recently did some cleaning up in my bedroom, and I took all of my knitting whips that were in my bedroom and I put them in the office because I was not knitting at the time. Like I wasn't interested. I wasn't interested in working on anything. So as I'm trekking them across the house to the office, I'm holding my gradient band cowl that I had cast on at the beginning of the year. And I thought, this does not make me happy. If anything, this is the reason that I'm not knitting. This project right here is why I'm not knitting. I cast that on, January 1st or 2nd? It's now mid-February and I hadn't knit up to this point. Like, this was some serious issues, and I'm still not entirely sure what my issues with it were, but I just wasn't interested in knitting on it. And so based on that, I pulled it out. I don't need to be distracted by a project that's not bringing me joy. It's a very KonMari kind of idea, but no joy in that project whatsoever. So pull it out. I'm done with that. I will knit gradient band cowl later. Maybe I'll switch up my main body color, or at least yarn base, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. So got rid of that. So then it was kind of like, well, now what? Do I cast on something else, or do I pull out one of my whips? And ultimately, I decided to pull out one of my whips. In stitching, I do this 2 finishes for a new start when I'm having new starts. That's sort of my accounting. And I would kind of like to do the same thing in knitting. And so I'm going to finish another project. I finished the blanket at the end of last year, and then I'm going to try to finish another something before I cast something on. So I decided to do this kind of snowball effect, and I'm going from the project that has the least amount to do up to the project that has the most amount to do. So my first focus whip It's my socks. Can you believe it, you guys? My socks that I cast on at the beginning of last year. So this is the first finished sock. And I finished this end of January last year. And then I cast on the second and knit on it for a little while and then put it down and picked it back up and put a few stitches in and made really slow, unsteady progress. And then it just lingered for months. So I think that honestly, this is where I was the last time you saw this. When I picked it up this time, I had knit the heel flap, but I hadn't turned the heel yet. So I did that. So this is the heel of the foot. And turned that and then did my gusset decreases that I finished up yesterday. So picked up stitches and then did gusset decreases. It was a blast. I really enjoyed this. So I really do think that I had some sort of mental block because of gradient band cowl. So anyway, so moving on down, I have a few inches of foot to knit and then toe, and then my socks are done. And I'm so excited to have some socks to wear. Speaking of socks, the yarn that I'm using is Sweet Georgia Tough Love Sock in the West Wind colorway. It's an 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon sock weight base. It's squishy and it's fabulous and I love it. And I have quite a bit left. So that's comforting because it means that the socks that I failed at a couple years ago, I can use what I've got left to knit another full-size pair of socks. I don't have to be worried about yarn chicken or anything. It will be just fine. So that is what I'm currently knitting on, and I work on it a little bit every day, and I'm hoping to get those finished up pretty quick like. So that is it that I have for knitting. I can't believe I have a knitting segment today. It was totally unexpected, but it was great to have something to work on the road this weekend. So there it is. Okay, everybody, that is everything that I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your continued support. If you're new, I hope that you enjoyed and I hope that you like what you see here. Feel free to come back next time. And if you are a returning viewer, then thank you for coming back each week. I so appreciate you guys. Okay, everybody, happy stitching, and as always, be kind.